We just witnessed back-to-back showdowns between Nikola Jokic and Victor Wembanyama. What a treat to be able to watch those guys go at it on back-to-back nights. That was some of the best regular season basketball that I've seen played in back-to-back nights. So fun. Two of the best in the world going at it. I do have a film breakdown of the game from last night, the Nuggets overtime win, coming later in the video. I'll leave a timestamp right here for you if you want to fast forward to just the breakdown. But I do want to talk about both of these teams for a little bit and just about where they're at, how their season's going, and how it could continue to go. So let's start with the Spurs. Obviously, we have Wemby, who is a top 8-ish player in the league. Is it too soon to say that? Some people are arguing him at number 5. I think I'd have him right around the 7, 8, 9 range if we're ranking players at this point. But what a jump that we've seen from him this season, going from a guy who finished the year last year as, maybe a top 25 guy to now putting himself into top 5 player in the world conversations in only his second year. His 21st birthday was yesterday. This guy is an absolute stud. So he's obviously the driving force. I actually covered Wemby in a previous video individually. If you want to check that out, I'm not going to spend too much time on him specifically because I want to talk about some of the additions that the Spurs made this year that's allowing them to have more team success, along with, of course, the individual development that we've seen from Wemby. But Chris Paul, man. Bringing in Chris Paul, who would have thought it would completely change the Spurs and how many games that they could win, how many good teams that they could beat, obviously beating the Nuggets a couple of nights ago, and Chris Paul was huge in that game. He was big. He's been big for them all season. But just bringing in an awesome pick and roll partner for Wemby, somebody to get him the ball in the right spots, get guys like Devin Vassell the ball in the right spots, somebody to just make the right decision with the ball in their hands every time, be able to pick apart defenses with his passing, and also be a guy who's hit a lot of big shots down the stretch for them this season. He had, multiple big shots in the first game that these two teams played. He had a step back 3. He had a big finger roll to close it. He's just been phenomenal and just gives them something that they did not have last year. We all remember how ugly the Jeremy Sohan experiment was with him playing point guard and bringing in Chris Paul, a true point guard. No offense to Trey Jones. Trey Jones has been excellent as well off the bench in his own right for the Spurs this year, but Chris Paul has just been such an upgrade at that position, having a veteran guy to be able to play with Wemby. What a luxury. And then the other vet that they brought in, Harrison Barnes, who he's been around, right? He's been in big games. He knows what it takes to win. And he's made a ton of winning plays for them this year as well. He's been great shooting the ball, off the ball. He's been really good attacking closeouts. He's given them overall just better wing play than they had last year. And that's what happens when you bring in veterans, we're seeing similar stuff around the league with a team like the Pistons bringing in Tim Hardaway, Malik Beasley, among others, to help out a young team with Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey. It really helps to bring in veterans alongside young players. The Rockets doing the same thing with Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, pairing them up with their young guys. So I just think it was a really good offseason for the Spurs and kind of one that went a little bit under the radar because they weren't splashy moves. But when you provide a young team with veteran leadership and guys who have been around and know what it takes to win in big spots, the Spurs are winning a lot more games, and that's a big reason why. I do want to shout out some of the young guys, though. Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sohan, Trey Jones, as I mentioned, Keldon Johnson, all contributing, all having very good seasons, but especially Devin Vassell, who has just been a really good secondary scorer for the Spurs. And I think coming down the stretch of a lot of these games, it's either him or Chris Paul who's running the two-man game with Victor Wembanyama. Vassell, he's been great off the ball, catching, attacking closeouts, catching and shooting. He's been great in that role, but he's also been great on the ball when you need him to run pick and roll with Wemby, or you need him to just create a basket for himself when Wemby doesn't have it going, when Chris Paul doesn't have it going. He's been phenomenal. So overall, just a really encouraging, first third of the season here for the Spurs. You can see the trajectory that they're on with a guy like Victor Wembanyama. It'll be interesting to see, going forward, how they can replace the older guys like Chris Paul, who is just a million years old and will be, retiring soon or taking a step back soon. And they're going to have to find something at that point guard spot. They'll have to replace Harrison Barnes eventually as well. But it's just great to see this team actually winning and competing rather than last year, which was just such a disaster. It was a hard watch. And now they are actually competitive and might be, in the playoff mix, in the play-in mix as we come to the end of the season. So good for the Spurs. Just overall, good for the Spurs. I know they lost last night, but they won the game before. Just a really good stretch here over the past few weeks. Now, let's go to the Nuggets, who came into the season as contenders. Obviously, Boston was the favorite, but then after that, it was like OKC probably second, and then it was like, are the Nuggets third? Like they the tough loss after losing to Minnesota in the playoffs last year, of course, but having Nikola Jokic, having Jamal Murray, knowing what they did on that championship run the year before, and they came in as probably the third or fourth team that you would have thought was going to win the championship. But the super slow start for Jamal Murray kind of changed a lot of opinions. Obviously, the bench scoring was an issue to start the season and still is an issue to this point in the season, and the defense just took a really big step back. But with that said, Nikola Jokic covers up a lot of those issues. I mean, he has been the clear best player in the world. Cleaning the glass provided these stats. The on-off numbers for Nikola Jokic are absolutely out of this world. The Nuggets are a net 30 points per possession, a net 30 points per 100 possessions better with him on the court. That's unheard of. Like Jokic has always had incredible on-off numbers. I think last year that number was around 24. Same thing the year before. But for comparison, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who the Thunder, as deep as they are, yes, they are very reliant on Shai's offense. Shai's number is at 15.9, which is crazy that their team is 15.9 points per 100 possessions better with Shai on the court, but it's half of Jokic's number. It's half. I mean, it's insane what Jokic is doing, and how different of a team the Nuggets are with him versus without him on the court. Now, in terms of going forward, obviously, the Nuggets need health. Aaron Gordon has been in and out of the lineup with a couple of weird injuries. Jamal Murray still kind of looks like he's getting his legs back under him, recovering, things of that nature. But to me, the big thing for them is just Jamal Murray not exactly getting healthy because he's been playing these games, but just returning to form. I mean, he hasn't been making the types of shots that he normally makes. He hasn't been scoring at the level that he normally does. And I do think it looks like he's lost a little bit of a step athletically, but even with that said, this starting five in this team just still has the capability to come down the stretch of a game and just be absolutely impossible to stop in the half court. And you absolutely see that in the film breakdown that I'm going to show in the game from last night. The Jokic-Murray two-man game, of course, like I said, Jamal not at the level that he was, a couple years ago in that championship run, but it's still a really effective action. It's something they go to all the time, and it's still, a big reason why they win some of these games down the stretch. MPJ, his shot making off the ball is just a unique wrinkle that a lot of teams don't have. A 6'10 sniper who you can just send flying off screens, a movement shooter, a guy who can just shoot over contests and negate a lot of contests because of his size. He had a really good game last night. Obviously, Aaron Gordon didn't play, but he's great in the dunker spot. I mean, I don't need to explain the whole Denver Nuggets offense, but this starting five, it still meshes perfectly to me. It's still one of the best fives in the entire league, even with Jamal not playing at that level that you want him to. They just simply generate cleaner looks at a higher rate than a lot of other teams, maybe more than any other team in the last 5 minutes of a game where really the game comes down to half court execution. So that to me is what makes this team scary, is if you get in a game where it's close in the last 5 minutes, the Nuggets can just simply out-execute you. They can go, 5 straight possessions of scoring, 7 straight possessions without missing a shot, and they just generate good looks every single time. Now, they do obviously have their weaknesses, like you can run them off the court, or earlier in the game when Jokic isn't on the court, when the bench is struggling to score and just no shots are going in. They're not a perfect team by any means, but if they can keep it close, man, I'm telling you, they are probably the best half-court execution team in the league, and that's just so important as we get closer and closer to playoff time. So we are going to take a big look at that half-court execution in this film breakdown. We're also going to take a look at Wemby and the Spurs and how they competed in this game. But again, what a showdown. I mean, just regular season basketball being this good, this consistently has been just an absolute treat. What a season we're having. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get into the film breakdown. All right, we've made it to the film breakdown. Let's get into this Wemby versus Jokic showdown. We're going to start early third here, and we're going to go all the way through the end of the game to OT. To start, you're going to see a lot of Wemby and the Spurs getting out to a lead, and then we'll get into how the Nuggets and Nikola Jokic just walk them down and come out with the OT victory at the end of the game. But let's start it off. I love what the Spurs are doing here, getting Wemby a touch at the foul line with a small guy on him. And watch this, he kind of loses the ball here. This is something with a skill development thing for Wemby that as he gets older and hits his prime, he's going to have to work on getting a tighter handle, because look at how exposed the ball is. It doesn't kill him on this play, but you see him pick it up, and you see Michael Porter Jr. as soon as he picks it up, comes over to double. Jokic also ready to contest. Just so much gravity by Wemby, and he just makes a nice flip out pass, and Harrison Barnes has had an excellent season, knocks that one down. Next play right here, this is a great pass by Chris Paul. It's a pick and roll with Wemby. You see Murray ready to help with the roll for Wemby. Again, he just draws so much attention, but look at the pass Chris Paul makes. Gets into the lane and kicks this out to Barnes, and Barnes, again, just a great veteran to bring in. He's knocking down shots. He got off to a nice start in the third quarter. This is a really interesting play because I guarantee you Nikola Jokic is not used to this. He goes right at Wemby, right to his chest. He creates a little bit of separation here, but watch Wemby close the distance and swat it away. I mean, Jokic is absolutely not used to this shot getting blocked. He takes this type of shot every single game. Great job by Wemby. Now, some people don't like that Wemby takes a bunch of threes, but this is why he is so scary going forward. Look at this here, running the pick and roll, and he gets Jokic on him, and he plays this like a guard. He takes it out, and he's like, yeah, Jokic can't guard me out here. I'm moving differently. And he crosses him a couple times, a little cross into the movement three, and knocks it down. I mean, a 7'4" guard is what we're talking about here at some point. When he really gets this handle down and really hits his prime, he's going to be unstoppable. So that was a nice little run by Wemby and the Spurs, but Jokic obviously going to respond. I thought Wemby throughout the game just gave Jokic a lot of these shots. Look at all the space there. Gave him a lot of open shots on pops throughout the flow of the game on shots like this. Jokic knocks this one down, and the Nuggets are going to start to chip into this lead a little bit. Nuggets get out in transition here, but watch the play that Wemby makes. Russ makes a nice pass to Brown, and Wemby's back is completely turned at the time of the pass, but watch the recovery. Just takes one step, kind of a inside pivot, and goes up and pins it against the glass. Just a guy who has the potential to be the best defender of all time. Now, throughout this third quarter, these teams were kind of going back and forth in scoring, but I just want to show the Nuggets have a little bit of a miscommunication here, and they were having miscommunications and just bad defense all quarter here, and that's kind of why the Spurs were able to maintain the lead through the third. But look at this. Christian Brown and Michael Porter Jr. just not on the same page here. They both think they have Keldon Johnson, and that leaves Champagnie open on the cut. And Michael Porter Jr. has to foul him. So the Nuggets definitely need to sharpen up the defense as they get, deeper into the season and into the playoffs, of course. That's going to be the area of weakness for them that you want to watch as we go through the season here. So you remember Wemby blocking Jokic a couple clips ago. Well, watch Jokic just go right at him again. That time, kind of give him a little shove. He gets away with it and just goes right up and over him. He's not afraid of him, even though Wemby, obviously blocked him a couple plays ago. Jokic ends up coming down the stretch and just absolutely taking over for the Nuggets. This is kind of the start of it right here. Again, you see Jokic just bodying Wemby, moving him, backing him down, and getting deep into the post in the paint. And when Jokic gets in here, it's really hard not to send a double. So Trey Jones obviously goes, and Jokic passes it right over his head, kind of flips it out to Strawther, who knocks it down. Nice shot by Strawther, big time. Now, this is what I'm talking about with the defensive struggles for the Nuggets. Obviously, they've been scoring this whole time, but so have the Spurs. They're still up 9. They have 90 points through 3 quarters. And watch, Trey Jones just running a simple play here. He's matched up with Murray and just crosses, gets right by him into the paint and finishes. Throughout this stretch where the Nuggets were scoring, but they also gave up 2 drives to Stephon Castle where he scored. They gave up a Keldon Johnson cut. They just couldn't keep guys out of the paint. They give up this drive, obviously, here to Trey Jones. This clip is cut off. You see there's only 4 seconds on the shot clock, but this was a masterful defensive possession from Wemby. You see him switched out onto Jamal Murray here, and Jamal just knows he struggles to create space. He doesn't really want to shoot over him whenever Wemby got switched out on him, so he tries to drive it, but he runs right into Castle, ends up dumping it off, and Wemby covers so much ground. It's just so hard to score when Wemby is anywhere near you, because he can just get to places that you don't think he can get to. Look where he is here, and then it takes one step for him to get to DJ and contest the shot. With the Nuggets, there's always a lot of talk about the non-Jokic minutes, and this game, Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., MPJ specifically, really covered the gaps for the Nuggets and were able to create baskets. MPJ, you see, hit the tough fadeaway here. They really covered for the non-Jokic minutes and were able to actually close the gap with Jokic out of the game. Whenever we talk about the Nuggets, the non-Jokic minutes always get talked about. In this game, Jamal Murray hit a couple shots. Michael Porter Jr., though, specifically, really covered up the non-Jokic minutes. You see the double stagger here for MPJ, gets into the lane and hits a nice little turnaround over Champagnie. He was big for them, especially in the non-Jokic minutes. When Wemby came out of the game at, I think it was like 9:10 on the clock, then he comes back at 6:50, the Nuggets cut the lead from 8 down to 3. So they actually closed the gap in the non-Jokic minutes. This is a really fun sequence here. You remember I was saying that Wemby kept kind of giving Jokic a little bit too much space on his pops, and Jokic punishes it here. Just leading the league in three-pointers for Jokic is absolutely insane. But then watch the next possession down, Wemby respond. You see Jokic switch. Russ is a little bit late to switch onto Wemby. Vassell sees it and throws a lob from the logo. And look at Wemby go and get it. Just unbelievable. I mean, the amount of ground that this guy covers, the amount of trust that Vassell has in him to throw that lob, it's just crazy. He's going to be so good. He already is. I mentioned MPJ was having a really good game. This was just a pretty set they draw up for him. You're going to see Russ come set the down screen for him right around the elbow, and then MPJ come flying off the handoff. And this is just an underrated, tough shot. It's something Michael Porter Jr. gives them that a lot of other teams just don't have. This type of size and shooting and shot making, it's super valuable for them. Great game from MPJ. This was just a pretty possession by the Nuggets, and you can start to see the Jamal Murray and Jokic two-man game start to be the go-to action for the Nuggets. Murray gets the switch on Wemby and brings him out, and then Jokic just going to bury Devin Vassell deep in the post, turn, easy bucket. On with a pretty nice possession here. It starts with Wemby posting up Peyton Watson, and you see Jokic and Russ just so far over and help. Jokic sagging off of Sohan, Russ doing the same with Vassell. They're just so worried about Wemby, and watch the pass that he makes. At 7'4", the size and the vision to be able to just see over a defense like this and make these cross-court passes. You're going to end up getting the Nuggets in rotation, but again, Russ makes a nice play here, comes up and contests, and the Nuggets actually do a pretty good job of scrambling and contesting the shot. But look at Jeremy Sohan down here, gets the good positioning on Jamal Murray, just the good little things that Sohan does to impact winning, goes up and gets the dunk. So good response there from the Spurs. They are now up to 2:30 to go. Again, the Jokic-Murray two-man game, it's still the go-to action for this team, just so difficult to guard, and watch what it leads to here. You're going to get Jokic touching the ball deep in the paint, and now it's just a Jokic post-up, and watch, he's going to back down Wemby, give him a bump. You see Chris Paul come over. They're not worried about Russell Westbrook, but Jokic trusts him, and Russ knocks down a big shot. Now, this was just big time by Devin Vassell. Look, down to 20 seconds to go, and watch. I mean, he's been clutch all year for them. He was clutch in the first game against the Nuggets, but watch the take here. Just goes through the contact from Russ, takes more contact from Jokic, misses the shot, but goes up and puts it in. Just a big-time player. He's getting a lot better, and he's going to be really good for them. Now, this is the final possession of regulation. You see the score 108-108, and watch the play that the Nuggets run. They end up, I thought, getting a really good look. You end up with Russ and Jokic running a pick and roll, and look at Russ. The first step, he still got a little bit of it, gets a good angle on Chris Paul, and Wemby going to come over and help, but look at Wemby just a little bit out of position here, turns his back, and I mentioned he gave Jokic a lot of room on these pops, but Jokic catches this, and he just hesitates for a half second. I thought if he caught this in rhythm, this could have been wide open, just shoot it right now, but he gives Wemby that half second to recover, and he ends up missing the shot. Obviously, it's a great look. I just thought, I don't know, I thought Jokic waited just a tick too long and gave Wemby a chance to get a hand up. At the start of overtime here, and watch this play from Jokic. He grabbed the rebound on the defensive end, then he's going to take it coast to coast. He's got Barnes on him, and he likes that. So he's going to keep him on him the whole way and then bury him deep in the post because Wemby's not in there, and he gets it, turns, and one. Big start to the overtime for Nikola Jokic. You're going to see him start to just completely take over this game here. This one's just incredible. Another Murray-Jokic pick and roll. Murray going to hit him again, and Jokic catches it around the elbow. Wemby right there this time, hand up. He's ready for the shot, but watch Jokic, just patient, gets down in his stance. Wemby goes down with him, and Jokic rises up and over 7'4", kind of fall away, just smooth. I mean, the touch the shot on this guy. It's just otherworldly. Wemby really struggled here in this second half. I think he only had 2 points this whole half, and you're going to see Jokic do a really nice job on him here. Wemby catches, he tries to rip through, but he brings it down to where Jokic's hands are, and Jokic comes away with the steal. Jokic just absolutely taking the game over now, and he's going to continue to do so in this next clip. Russ kicks it out here, and then Peyton Watson, they just left him open. Not everybody was back in transition, and watch this rebound. Jokic goes up with one hand, he can't quite corral it, he just spikes it on the ground, and then Westbrook, a great play to go up and tip it away from Harrison Barnes. And then as the play continues, Russ into the paint, gets it to Jokic, who again draws a crowd, and Jokic continues to trust his teammates, but Russ misses this one, but he brought Wemby out of the paint to contest, and Jokic goes up and just taps this one in. He completely dominated this entire overtime, showed why he's the best player in the world. Here's another big-time play by Devin Vassell. Wemby was struggling. The Spurs couldn't get anything going on the scoreboard in this overtime, and Vassell catches it, goes right at Russ, big step, Euro, and goes up and dunks it. He's a really, really good player for them. Here's more of the two-man game, and Murray was struggling all game. They kept, Jokic was obviously going off, ended the game with 46 points, but Wemby here, he's really more worried about Jokic. You have Champagny trailing behind, and this is why the two-man game is hard to guard, because Murray makes a nice little floater layup, and the Nuggets go up 6 in overtime. This is the play that closes it here. You see the cutter Peyton Watson. He's going to end up having a pretty open lane, so Wemby has to take him, which leaves Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic matched up with Chris Paul and Devin Vassell. Obviously, Chris Paul on Nikola Jokic, big time mismatch, goes right through him. Nice floater over Wemby, and that would basically do it for the Nuggets win. So Jokic just completely took over this entire overtime. But from 6:50 in the fourth quarter to the end of overtime, the Nuggets, I thought, really just showed that if you get into a half-court battle with them, if it comes down to execution at the end of games, they can just out-execute teams. They've shown us that, season after season. They won that time period 31-15. They shot 50% from the field and 57% on threes since the 6:50 mark in the fourth quarter. They won the overtime 11-3. So again, there's a lot of flaws with this Nuggets team. The bench isn't great. They've had health concerns. Jamal Murray obviously not playing at the level that they want him to be, but they can still really flex their muscle sometimes with this half-court offense, with the Jokic and Murray two-man game, Michael Porter Jr.'s off-ball scoring, and just getting just enough stops that if you get into a half-court battle with them, man, they can score at a really, really high level. So that is going to do it for my breakdown of the Wemby and Jokic showdown. It was great. Back-to-back nights. I can't believe that the NBA gave us such a treat. But thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe for more.